Ideal Protein is a doctor-designed, coach-led ketogenic weight loss protocol that uses food as medicine to empower you to lose weight and live your healthiest life.
And welcome back to the Livingston Parish Weekly Show, a podcast brought to you by Livingston Parish News. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news, and this is a special edition called Group Therapy. It's where we sit down here at the news and talk about what's going on in Livingston Parish. I am joined, as always, by my fellow editors. We're going to let them introduce themselves, starting on the viewers and my left.
That would be me, I guess. Rob DeArmond here. I'm the sports editor at the Livingston Parish News.
And on the right.
And this is David Gray, lifestyle editor with the news.
And today we are nucking if you're bucking. So we are talking all about a lot of postseason sports and some other things going on in the schools as well. David, let's start off with that. I know that at the last school board meeting, there's been a lot of conversation around this particular topic. Where parents are, I suppose the best way to put it is fearful that the schools are going to start mandating vaccines and vaccinating kids on campuses and things like that. Again, the superintendent has reiterated that's just not going to happen, correct?
Yeah, that was at the last parish council meeting, and yeah, that's been a topic this whole school year. Really, anything pertaining to COVID has been masking, vaccine, all testing. That has all been topics, and parents, they feel concerned that stuff would be done to their kids without their consent, that sort of thing. But Mr. Murphy has, he said it from the beginning of this year. He said it last year. Ever since vaccines became a thing, that that decision for a child to be vaccinated is best left to that parent or guardian and their medical provider. That's been his stance from the beginning, and he just kind of wanted to reiterate that. That came after the couple weeks ago, the Pfizer vaccine was approved for emergency use for children 5 to 11. So that would make it, now basically children 5 to 17 can take the Pfizer vaccine. So that's kind of where that came from. He just wanted to reiterate that. There was a letter apparently that went out that from the Department of Health where there was some confusion with whether or not the COVID vaccine was being mandated. It is not at this point. It's not on the regular list of required vaccines for students to attend schools, but Mr. Murphy, he just wanted to reiterate that at the last meeting. He used the superintendent's comment portion of the meeting to kind of say that the district is not mandating the vaccine at this point, and they have no intention of doing that moving forward unless something happens.
Gotcha. So also discussing last week in the schools, which is usually where we cover a lot of this. It was Veterans Day last Thursday. I know. Did you bounce around to a couple?
No, I went to one. The Walker High had a big one, and the only problem with these Veterans Day programs is they all kind of go on at the same time, so you can only really get the one. But I mean, I'll say that the majority of schools did something. I can't say with certainty that everyone did, but I feel safe saying the majority of them did, and that's usually how it goes every year. It's really one of the biggest days, like parish-wide in the school system is Veterans Day. Every school usually has some sort of program, whether it's, inviting veterans to campus for breakfast, and then, have presentations where you have, kids doing lead-in programs. At Walker High, the Walker High band, which just won. They won the grand champion trophy at a major marching band festival. So I mean, they were getting the veterans got a pretty good performance there. But they did a bunch of American medleys as the veterans walked out. Jason Tubbs, who's the senior Marine instructor for the ROTC program, Walker High, he spoke, gave a really moving testimony about a veteran who offered to take his place on in a deployment in Iraq, and that man ended up losing his life during that deployment. And he was similar to Mr. Tubbs. I mean, young man, husband, father. So I mean, Mr. Tubbs kind of talked about that story, and it was really, I thought, a moving story. And the veterans were allowed to introduce themselves. I know at North Live Oak Elementary they had a drive-by parade, and 7th Ward Elementary, I saw photos on their Facebook page about the stuff they did. They had a program, each grade level does something different for the veterans, and they invite the veterans of family members at the school. And it was just a lot different than last year, because last year there were no programs because of COVID. Everything was done virtually, so that was the big thing. And like Mr. St. Pierre Walker High, who he's a veteran himself, he kind of talked about that this is the first time we've been able to gather as a school body in 2 years together, all in the gym at once. And he said it was pretty special that it was on Veterans Day.
Sure. And obviously hits close to home for him. Want to talk also about the Christmas Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
I will be sitting down with Sheriff Jason Arden tomorrow. We are recording this Wednesday, November 17th, so I'll be sitting down with him on Thursday, November 18th. But go ahead and give us a little primer, as donations should be kicking up here, or may already have started, for the Christmas Crusade.
The donations actually groups donate to this cause year round. It's full nonprofit organization, so people are donating to it year round. But every year people notice during the Saturday after Thanksgiving is when it really gets started, when sheriff's deputies will be at the 3 Walmarts in Livingston Parish and Bass Pro. They'll be in front of them, and they collect toys, monetary donations, that sort of thing. And so that's, like I said, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. They basically do it for a couple weeks after that on Saturdays, Sundays, and then Thursday through Sunday, Thursday through Sunday. Then donations will end on December 13th. And then, people don't know, the Christmas Crusade is something the sheriff's office started in the 80s under Mr. Art's predecessor, who to help families that struggle with providing toys during the holidays, to help those families and give them toys. It's for kids 12 and younger, and families have to apply for this. But it's just a way to help out these families that not everyone can afford. As simple as it might seem, not everyone can afford gifts at Christmas. And last year they helped 1,500 children from almost 700 families. So there's a real impact that you see in this program. And one thing that Mr. Arts, when I talked to him last year about, is there was a woman who gave last year, who she was a recipient of the program. She moved here after Katrina, and she was a recipient of the program for like 5 or so years, and has been given ever since then. Ever since she was able to get back on her feet, she's been giving every year to that. And she she talked about that last year with the sheriff's office. So it's a full circle type of program. And yeah, you'll be talking with him tomorrow, and he'll tell you all about it. His wife's the one who does it, that's for sure.
Right. And but she likes to stay off the mic.
Yeah.
So he has to be the forward facing guy.
I felt honored that she granted me one interview. I've done the only story on Erica Ard being Miss Claus.
Well, hopefully she'll come tomorrow, but I don't think so. I think she likes to send Jason off to do the talking. So we will, if you're listening to this on Wednesday afternoon, please be on the lookout tomorrow for my sit down with Jason R. talking about the Christmas Crusade. David, we're going to come back to you for the rest of the news, but want to jump over real quick to give Rob a little bit of the spotlight here, because we have a ton of postseason sports going on for fall sports. First and foremost, let's cover the sort of top of mind awareness, which was there was a lot of cross country results.
A lot of cross country
coming in over the last few, couple of days.
The 3A and 5A ran yesterday, which is Tuesday at Northwestern State. When it goes all day long for them. So I will jump right into it. Well, Kane Boudreaux went into the 3A meet trying to defend her championship. She wound up second. And the girls, I believe, wound up 10th. The boys wound up 15th. And I think Kane had a knee injury going in, so she said it kind of acted up during the race. Not using that as an excuse or anything. Of course, she goes in wanting to repeat. So, when I talked to her, she was kind of a little bit down, but at the same time, you're looking at, the future for these programs. I'm looking at who they brought to the race. You've got a junior, Caden's a sophomore, and the rest of the team for the girls are freshmen. So that gives them a whole lot to build on, and the same for the boys. When I talked to Coach Carroll, it's hey, I think she said it's the first time since 2015 that Albany's fielded two, a full team, boys and girls, for the state meet. which is that's a step in itself to be able to do that. So she's just looking to build the program and try to see where they can get it going. Based on that, they're headed in the right direction.
Sure. And how about the rest of the folks?
So we had for the 5A race on the girls' side, Hannah Linebaugh from Denim Springs finished sixth. Capped off a great career there. In 1907, which is a little bit slower, but when I talked to Coach McLean, that race they're running in the afternoon, and he said I don't want to use it as an excuse, the same thing, but they're so used to running in the morning or late in the evening when it's a little bit cooler. And he said I remember we're going into the 5A race for the boys, and he said that or they're going into the 5A race, and they keep, hey, hydrate, and they've got water bottles and towels and everything for them. So it's a little bit different for them. Ava Patero was 22nd for Walker, and her teammate Avery Guidry was 25th. Allie Tyler from Live Oak, 41st. Denim Springs is 11th. That's the second year in a row. They finished 11th in the team standings. Live Oak was 12th and Walker 13th. So they're all in a bunch right there on the girls' side. So, that's quality work there.
Yeah.
Just be happy. I know the coaches are pleased with how things work out for them. So, on the boys' side, Jacob Kennedy, who's your parish champ from Walker, was the top boys finisher, finished 16th. Walker came in 12th in the boys standing. Live Oak was 16th. So solid performances there. Nothing that to hang your head about, and stuff to build on for everybody, I think.
Sure. And before we get into the football, you have some swimming results?
Results.
Right.
They're cranking up. We'll have today, which will be Wednesday. It'll be Division 4. They'll start prelims, and Hannah Hursis from Holden's in 2 events there, and then we've got the Division 1 and Division 2 prelims will be Friday with championships on Saturday, and we've got folks from Walker, Live Oak, and Denim in those races. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted.
Sure. Always, and want to say, be looking on our website, www.livingstonparishnews.com, and follow Rob especially on Twitter. Do want to tell folks too, before we get into football, basketball has started. And of course you can follow Rob on Twitter or check our website for great photos from Mr. David here. And of course the write-ups from Rob. I know y'all went to the Holden and Doyle
last night. Yeah, that was a good stuff to kind of lead off the season. We are in full swing crossover mode right here, right. So there's somewhere to be every night. And I will say we're going to vote. We'll be doing the all parish volleyball meeting this evening, so keep on a lookout for that too. Gotcha.
So please be on the lookout for all that, and of course we'll be talking more about basketball and such next week. Because we still have plenty of football to talk about postseason. We had 3 teams in it. 2 teams went down. 1 will continue. But, of course, the continuation, as the coach says, it shouldn't be a shock to anybody. We'll get to that in a second. Let's start with Springfield. They traveled to North Caddo. Maybe not the result they wanted. Usually it isn't if you lose.
Yeah, 54-6. It was just one of those things where North Caddo kind of got on a roll there early, and they get down in the hole and you kind of can't climb out of it. It's just one of those things that you come out and we had talked with Coach Surpass about starting fast and everything like that, and it just doesn't materialize. It's just one of those deals. They hit some big plays too, and it at the same time, he's looking at kind of the youth of the team. He goes back to quarterback with Husser at quarterback, and he's a freshman. And he just said you can see the growth coming from him. Jatoris Buggage had a great season. Those guys will be back. They only had 4 seniors, so they've got stuff to build on, and he did tip his hat to the seniors in helping them get back to the playoffs, and hopefully it's something they can build on here.
Sure. So also suffering a loss, probably what they didn't want, and had to travel roughly to the same place. That would be Live Oak played Captain Shreve up there in Shreveport. So it
was wound up 37-7 here, and I was getting text updates, and so Live Oak recovered a fumble on the opening kickoff, went down, missed a field goal, and when I talked to Coach Westmoreland, it's kind of those ups and downs, and he said you recover a fumble, then you miss a field goal, and so you're kind of going through those peaks and valleys, and he said once you get to a certain point, you get kind of, it's like, okay, this is going to be this is going to be tough to come back from. He also said that had a really good defensive front for Captain Shreve, and they had the patchwork offensive line. They'd been so banged up, moving people around, changing people around. He said it finally kind of caught up with them, and he said that's not a knock on the effort that the kids gave him, because he said, we go, hey, can you look at a guy, hey, what do you need, coach? What do you need me to do? And he said every one of those guys were willing to do whatever they needed to do to kind of help the team out. And we talked about it before, but Live Oak went through probably about really late in the season here because of injuries. They had to switch the offensive philosophy completely. So it totally reversed with about 2 or 3 weeks left in the season.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But again, looking for something to build on for next year.
You've got, he said it's Sawyer Pruitt's a freshman quarterback, and he winds up starting these last few games, and he'll be back for them.
Sure. So getting into the last team, who will now be having a home game. They had to travel in the first round, but I use that term a little loose. Denim went to Central and dominated the game. I mean, there's really not another way to put it.
You look at it, you look at the score, you're going to, the first meet was 34-7. We talked about that, and Central won. This one was 42-14. If you look at what Denim's doing, it really, I don't want to say it shouldn't be a shocker, but you can kind of see them week to week, and I guess I've seen them the last three weeks or so, but you kind of see them growing each week. And when I talk to Coach Beard, even though they lose to Scotlandville in the last game of the regular season, you can still see some positive things there. And when they come out, the defensive game plan, I just people have asked me how did it work, and I said basically there weren't many lanes for Central to run in, and that's what they do. They wound up hitting a couple big pass plays to get their touchdowns, but Denim went down and scored on the first drive. Then they get a block punt, wind up scoring off of that, and they had momentum, and then they get Central goes down, gets a score, and then Ray McNeely busts a big run, and those are the types of things that when you talk to Coach Beard, it's like, because I asked him, he said, those are the types of things you want to see when your team responds to, a score from the other team. How are you going to respond? And you're starting to see these guys, and then talking to them at the end of the game, it was just like, hey, we're, this might be a surprise to a lot of people, but for us, it's not.
Sure.
They're starting to get that confidence, and they had to do the same thing. When Reese Mooney gets hurt against Franklinton early in the season, they're trying to figure out what they need to do. Okay, how does our offense change? And they're trying to figure it out. And they wound up starting Jerry Horn, the freshman, at quarterback. So Ray McNeely was able to shift back to his natural position at running back. And, he ran for 241. So I'd say that's 241 and 4 touchdowns. To say these guys have gotten comfortable in what they're doing, I don't want to call it an understatement, but you can see it every time they come out now. Throwing just enough to keep you honest, but they're doing a lot of work on the ground and being able to move some stuff around. And like I said, it's a comfort zone on both offense and defense. You can just see it. The kids are they played loose the other night, and they just went with it.
Sure. So Denim will be hosting West Washita, correct?
I think that's correct.
Okay.
So
had a chance to talk to Brett this week.
Yeah, sure did. He said it's going to be a different type of team. When you face teams up north, he said they're a little more physical in what they do. So he said they're going to have to kind of match that physicality and kind of see what's going on. He feels like the game's kind of going to, it's coach speak, but it's also true. What they can do in the trenches is going to decide what happens. That's pretty much it. He said they've got some good athletes, especially at the quarterback position. And, at this point, it's just all about the kids. He kind of likened it to this is new territory for these kids, but he also explained it to in this was a great way of. He compared it to Zachary. He said, if you think of kids at Zachary, if they play in all 4 years and they go as deep as Zachary usually does, by the end of their career, they played maybe 10 games extra, counting playoff games. He said, that's like a whole season. They played a whole, and so he said, that's where you want to get your kids to and get them to understand that that's what we want to be doing year in and year out.
Right. Getting a lot of free football.
Yeah, free football. It's work, it's work.
Sure. So we will be looking for that coverage of West Washita versus Denim. They come here, so the field's not very far from our office. That'll be this Friday. Jumping back over to David to wrap up the show, we've got two little news stories left to talk about that were on the front, and let's start with the easy one. The non-long explanation one, which is the constitutional amendments, which were voted on this weekend with a really, really bad turnout.
Yeah, less than 10% turnout. So that was there's 86,000 registered voters in Livingston Parish, and about 7,500 made it out to the polls. So, and my boss has raised his hand; he was one of them. So
I did it.
So yeah, so well, you don't count here. So
that's true. It was low there too.
Yeah,
so.
I bet it was. But so yeah, but yeah, like you said, it was just 4 constitutional amendments, and the next election will probably be. December election will probably be even smaller turnout because that is just for the town of Springfield. So you might just have a few hundred people voting in that one. But elections next year, they should be, especially in the spring, they should have more turnout. They have a few more, they have a few more bigger items on next year's ballot.
Well, and we spoke with Dr. Devin Gregoire from the school board. That'll be, that Albany proposal will be on the ballot in the spring. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, a pretty quiet fall election cycle, which is okay. Yeah. It happens. So, moving over to the what might be a little more complicated, but I do want to remind folks that we did sit down with Mayor Gerard Landry to talk about this. But the Spring Park area, and especially homes south of there towards the railroad tracks, or properties in general, will be not facing, because it's voluntary, but it's a voluntary buyout program through FEMA / Louisiana Watershed initiative. Mm-hmm. David, tell us a little bit about that, because you were actually at that meeting where they came and spoke on it.
Yeah, it's basically a program that there's been Louisiana Watershed initiative started by Governor Edwards. Has chosen 7 locations, I guess you say, throughout the state that these are flood-prone areas, and basically they are offering the residents there, people or property owners in those areas, the chance to sell their properties so that those homes, buildings, whatever's there could be demolished and turned into green spaces, just to sort of help address some of the flooding that these particular areas face. And this is the Spring Park area. It's basically from Spring Park on River Road down to the animal shelter, and then back to the Amy River. So that's kind of that's the area they're talking about. During the meeting, Mr. Mayor Landry said there's about 100 or so properties there, something like that, and they have it actually divided into 3 priority zones. The further of that area that I just explained, the further north is priority zone 1, then priority zone 2 is in the middle, then 3 is at the bottom, and so that's kind of, I guess, that's how they have it labeled in terms of the necessity, which one they're hoping to, I guess, get cleared first. But like Mr. Landry said, and the people who came and spoke from LWI, this is a voluntary thing. That no one's being forced to sell their homes. But it is a chance that if people do live in these flood-prone areas and they want to, get out, this is a chance for them to be able to sell that. And Mr. Rick Foster, the building official, he kind of mentioned that, this is a chance for some people to get out from property that, might otherwise be difficult to sell because, I mean, you live in a flood zone, your property value is not going to be that high. So, and not to mention your, flood insurance is going to be really high. So, I mean, this is a chance for people to, get out of that. And there's an incentive package on top of, there's the fair market value that they're assessing that, but they're also offering an incentive on top of that. So, I mean, this is, if you're wanting to sell your home and you live in this area, this is probably going to get you the most money that you would get.
Sure, especially with risk rating 2.0 rolling out. It's going to be more and more difficult for people to live in a flood zone. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to be keeping an eye on that program. Well, gentlemen, it has been a fun Wednesday. We're going to sign off here, and we're going to start on the viewer's right and my right.
Hey, this is David Gray, lifestyle editor with the news.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond, sports editor at the Livingston Parish News.
And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you all out there joining us today and listening in or watching as we discuss what's going on in Livingston Parish. Please remember the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We appreciate you joining us, and we will see you next time.